Brody Jenner, always, usually this nice guy when you see him out.
Very.
But that was not the case at his hotel in Orange County early Sunday morning.
Marriott Hotel or OC?
Laguna, in Laguna.
I thought
Very
it was,
nice.
Well, Laguna's OC.
Yeah, it's OC. Yeah, I'm just telling you more specifically, Laguna Cliffs.
Okay.
Nice place.
Beautiful.
You think you'd just be nice and relaxed there. Well,
Beautiful.
Brody was not. Something really ticked him off. We know exactly what happened before, but you got to see this first. This is Brody in the hotel lobby. He's talking to, well, screaming at the security guards there who had just come to his room because they were going to kick him out of the hotel. We'll explain why in a second, but first, here is Brody absolutely losing it.
Well, no, we're not. These two are I will press charges on your ass. Hey, I will press charges on your I'm about to call my word right no, you dare come to my
That
Wow.
is so many beeps. I can't even keep
Wow,
up.
you would have thought that was like a
Wow.
a rap from the game.
So
or something.
here's the deal. Brody had an issue with a room that he wanted to get into.
Yeah, it was all a misunderstanding, you guys. We actually spoke to sources close to Brody who say that he had left some of his stuff in his manager's room, who was separate from his room, and he had asked to be allowed to go into that room, but he says originally they told him that he was allowed to, they would let him in, but then another person called him who
So, no, of course we
says,
can't do that, right?
Well, no,
would make
a
sense.
manager called up and said, no, you can't let somebody go
Right.
into another guest's room. That's absolutely against hotel policy, which, by the way, is against the policy of every hotel in America, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right, which then he says that he was upset at that person and was cussing about his manager, like, oh my gosh, can't believe my manager would not let me get in.
Just so you know, that
Well,
doesn't make any sense.
what
They're not
doesn't
gonna-
make sense-
They're not going to kick him out because he's saying
Right.
he's ragging on his
There had
manager
to-
on the phone.
Well,
But they
the person
thought
on the phone.
he was talking to them, so they were upset and barged into his room, told him he had to leave, and then he was like, you guys cannot be coming into my room like this, and that's when he flipped out in the lobby.
So what doesn't make sense to me is that even if he were just yelling about his manager and they misunderstood it like he was yelling at them, you'd have to say something pretty
Really
extreme
bad to get kicked out of the
to
hotel.
get kicked out of the hotel. No, we contacted the hotel. They did not want to comment about it. But I've got to imagine there was something more that was said. Sheriff's deputies, by the way, showed
You're 100%
up.
right. And by the way, if he's really screaming about his manager, I think that's going to translate
To the person on
to
the
the
phone?
person on the phone.
Clearly, he was angry.
But a lot of people are angry when they call. They don't generally come
What
up to
was
the
the
room and
thing
say,
he
leave
said?
the hotel. They do not generally say, leave the hotel.
Well, obviously, our Brody sources aren't going to say what it is
Yeah,
he said.
but something happened.
And the hotel isn't speaking. But as you saw in that photo, by the way, the hotel ended up calling sheriff's deputies who showed up to make sure that everything would be calmed down. Brody eventually left calmly. There was no further incident and no one was arrested or anything, but a very tense moment.
My name is Amir Wazani, and I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I'm a huge fan of Kendall Jenner and her family. I believe that something more had to have gone down. If you take an individual's possessions, especially a grown man at a hotel, this isn't like a high school where you have your cell phone out in the classroom. You can't just take somebody's possessions. And I would have reacted in the same fashion, to be truthfully honest. So,
well, well, hold on. I got a couple of questions. What do you mean reacted in the same fashion? If taking possessions, what do you mean?
Well, I read on your website that they had taken his possessions and he went into the room to obtain his possessions.
No,
so
no,
I feel as though...
well, his manager had things. Now, we don't know if he left it there or his manager, but that's between him and his manager. You can't blame the hotel.
That's not the hotel. That's his manager had his stuff, and he wanted to get his stuff, which is why he wanted to get in the manager's room. And the hotel is saying, you can't go in somebody else's room. We can't just let people in other people's rooms. That opens Pandora's box in terms of liability and safety.
Yeah.